You're listening to the Wedding Biz Network, the voice of the creative entrepreneur. Hey everyone, it's Andy Kushner, host of The Wedding Biz, a podcast that provides both education and inspiration for those of us in or interested in the weddings and event industry. If you missed last week's episode, it was with Sharon Sever, head designer of Galia Lahav House of Couture out of Tel Aviv. And today's episode is a revisit of my first interview with Cindy Novotny from 2018. Cindy is the founder of Master Connections Associates, an internationally renowned leader in sales, leadership, and customer service. She's been recognized by the Association of Talent Development as one of 9 most powerful and innovative speakers. The Hospitality Sales and Marketing Association International recognized Cindy as one of the top 25 most extraordinary minds in sales and marketing. She authored the book Living with No Balance and Loving It. Enjoy this conversation with Cindy Novotny. Cindy, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yes, absolutely excited.
The energy is palpable. I mean, after just hearing you at the Engaged Luxury Wedding Summit conference, you just spoke, right? Or you spoke just a little while ago. And your delivery, your energy, it's infectious.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's what I love and it's what I enjoy doing. And I really feel like when I walk on stage, I actually do connect with people. So, and I genuinely feel that.
Well, I'm just curious if there was something in your past, especially when you're growing up, that already kind of got the passion going related to this, maybe being on stage, talking to people, helping people change their lives. I mean, was there some aspect of this growing up?
Well, funny enough, I mean, I feel like there should have been. I never was in drama. I got kicked out of choir because I was too chatty Cathy.
Okay.
But I was always the showman in family. You know, when I was just a little over 1, I was reciting, you know, 'Twas the Night Before Christmas for all my parents' friends. I've always been, my sister would tell you that I would push her aside and say, nope, I'm in charge. I'm going to be in the show. And if she'd make me mad, I would say, you're not going to be on my Christmas special someday. Oh. So I always wanted to do that. But what's so ironic is I never pursued that. So not even debate class or drama. Why wouldn't I have done that?
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
You know, first of all, I had terrible stage fright.
What?
I loved,
Wait a minute, you?
Yes. I had terrible stage fright. I loved in front of my friends and family, I would sing and dance and in front of a mirror.
Yeah.
But then when I would get in front of other people, I would get extremely nervous. And over time, you know, my dad was in training and development with Shell Oil Company, and he continued to inspire me to really kind of look at how I influenced people as just a leader. You know, I was a director of sales and marketing with Westin. I worked for Disney. So over time, I mean, even speaking at big meetings, you know, in corporations,
sure,
I'd have to get myself all kind of prepared.
Yeah.
You know, and this was way before the days of PowerPoint or anything like that. And it slowly but surely became more natural to me.
Well, and isn't that one of the biggest fears? I mean, that's what, it's almost cliche, right? That speaking in public is probably the number one fear of most people.
Yeah, after dying, they say. Truly.
Well, yes. If I can go back for a minute. So you're in school. What were your passions in high school when you're starting to get older and you're approaching college?
Yeah, well, I was in, you know, gymnastics and like cheerleading dance.
Yeah, you
corps.
talked in the stage about some short, tight outfit later in a business. Right. We'll get to that.
Yes. So I did all of that. You know, I twirled a baton. So I was very much present in that world.
Yeah.
So I think over time that just became very natural. I was, you know, very much involved in school as far as intramural, you know, kind of sport related things and, you know, helping out and being kind of in charge of things at my dorm. But, you know, over time, you start to get more comfortable talking in front of groups of people. But, you know, little tiny things like even at church. I mean, I would never have been the one standing up, you know, reading anything at church. I'd be like, don't call on me.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
So it did take time. And I believe that, you know, speaking in public is absolutely important for everyone because I do think it helps you grow in your business, whatever business it's in.
Yeah.
Because I know some very, very smart, talented people, but they can't give
express
a decent,
it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
They can't give a decent presentation and it does fail them in business.
Well, how would you suggest someone who I mean, again, obviously there's a lot of us in the room. There's an incredible amount of talent, not necessarily people who can get up though and talk, right? They can be behind the scenes and work with their team and create these beautiful performances. Ed Libby was talking about fear, right? Himself, not necessarily about that, but just fear. What would you suggest to someone who needs to kind of develop that ability and confidence to be able to get up and speak like that, which is going to affect everything, right?
Right.
In their business, their lives.
Absolutely.
What would you suggest?
So
Anything?
first, and I give a lot of feedback on this, and I do some one-on-one coaching with people on this. First and foremost, you've got to speak at every opportunity. So that does mean, if you're a parent, at your children's school, at church.
That's a great idea.
At a community event, at a neighborhood event.
So practice.
Just as much as you can.
Where you don't have as much at stake.
Right. And where there's no script to read, or there's no, I've got to get through this.
But isn't that harder for people to, like, I'm like that too. I'll have maybe bullets or something, and I'm always like, when I speak, I'm going off in totally other directions, but I love it. And, but I mean, isn't it hard to kind of, in a sense, improvise? You're saying don't use a script.
No. So and I'll get to like what that's like as a presenter. As a presenter, you do need some sort of script or notes. You don't have to have it written down. We would never suggest you write it out, but some sort of a script. Otherwise you become a winger and you do go off on tangents. But when you're presenting in a very comfortable, personal, social environment, at school, at church, in your neighborhood, at your wherever, just with your friends, getting up and talking at a party or giving a toast.
Ooh, great idea.
At someone's wedding, or that is very natural, but it takes guts and it takes a little practice to do that. And that's what so many people, it's like, I'm not going to talk. Don't make me talk. Don't make me read that.
Yeah.
And if you really want to say, no, I need to do that. And so even, I do training all day long with salespeople and leaders and, business professionals where we have 20, 30 people in a room for 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
And I know the ones at the table, we never have more than like 4 or 5 people at a table so that they can't hide. All of a sudden I'll go around the room and I'll say, wow, we haven't heard from you, Andy, in a while.
That's another fear.
And they're like looking.
Yeah, like we're back in school again.
Right. And because I need them to talk. And then we make always, and these are adults, but we make them stand up when they're giving out their, their thoughts. We make them stand to be present. And I've had people say to me, this is the worst thing I've ever done in my life. I don't want to do this. And we'd say, well, you got to do this.
Well, it's almost like, what's the worst fear, right? Like, what are you really afraid of? I like what you say, maybe not a wedding, a little pressure there, but in terms of at your church or something like that, what's the worst? These are people who love you.
Exactly. And you'll mess up a word or you'll say something and no one ever laughs at you. Yeah. They will laugh with you. Yeah. If you have fun with yourself, when you're presenting and enjoy it, they will laugh. I tell no jokes. People laugh when I present, and yet I tell no jokes.
That's interesting. You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, because there were plenty of times we laughed.
Right.
But now that I'm thinking about it, right. You didn't tell a joke with a punchline.
No, I don't ever tell any jokes. First of all, I can't remember jokes. I'm one of those that if you tell me a joke today, I will forget it tomorrow at the next cocktail party. Yeah. So what I do is I'm real and I talk about things that are so normal that everybody's thinking about. Yeah. And that is how I've crafted who I am today because I can't memorize like that. I'm not good. That's probably why I never even tried to go into drama, but I probably couldn't have been an actor because I really don't do well memorizing. I do much better with improv. I do much better with off the cuff, but I always have a framework of what I'm talking about.
So another tip I'm thinking, given what you're saying, would be like, let's use the idea of church or something or a birthday party.
Right.
Is come up with something that is real for you, right?
Yes.
Like something that really means something that you're passionate about.
So you think of the person that you're going to be toasting at a birthday party.
Right.
And you think about 2 or 3 things that relate to you. So if you only think about 2 or 3 things about them, but you don't connect it to you, then why are you even doing the toast? Because you want to connect it to you because then it's more real.
And it also, to me, it connects the people listening because you're kind of speaking for them.
Right. And it allows you not to forget what you're going to say. So you write down 3 things. You write down, grew up together, dogs, and tennis. That means I'm going to talk about, I don't have to write down any more than that.
Yeah.
Because now I know I'm going to talk about when we grew up together and all the fun antics. Then I'm going to talk about our dogs. We walk our dogs every Saturday together. Then I'm going to talk about, our tennis matches. You see, so I don't need to, that comes naturally, but I know my 3 points.
And you're creating a story.
Yeah, exactly.
So I love this. And I want to go back. So didn't I also hear at Engage something about when you were, was it 16 that you had some kind of a business and your father?
I said I was starting businesses. At 16, I wanted to start a limo company.
Yeah.
As soon as I got my license, and I wanted to call it Sin Drivers, S-I-N, because my name's Cindy.
Okay.
And, I was going to have the girls in little shorts and be really cute. And we were going to have, and my dad, he loved the idea, but he goes, "You're 16. You can't do this." I was like, oh, but I did, I tried every way to be an entrepreneur as a young kid. And I always was coming up with ideas. And my family would laugh to this day because I always would design the t-shirt of my business before I had a business.
Oh, that's right. But why? Right. Okay. So you had this entrepreneurial spirit kind of in you. Why do you think that was? Why did you want to do that at that age? Why was it so important to you?
I believe, well, first of all, my parents are incredible and they're still with us to this day. And my dad is my mentor in business. But my mom, always worked in school, was a counselor. They really did explain to me that nothing comes easy. You got to work for it. And I saw my dad talk about the corporate world. Okay. He would use terms that now I just laugh. He's a corporate coward, he would say about somebody. Cause, the playing politics, cause in big corporations, what's right. But it's like politics today. You won't flat out say it because it's going to hurt you for you.
Oh, I was at IBM. I went there. Yeah. They would put, Cindy, they put me on a task force. They would do that with the people they were developing and, to figure out the solution to a problem. And we came up with some stuff. It was kind of radical, but it was to solve it. We knew we're down on the street. They did not want to hear it. They took it, did nothing. I was like, they're just ways. They had to say that they were involving us.
Yes. Oh, my husband, the same thing. He joined, I started our company 30 years ago and he joined probably, I'd say 8-9 years into it because he had to work for a huge corporation because he had to support us. Yeah. So he worked for this big company and had half of the U.S., all the salespeople, and his boss, I'm sorry, was such a corporate coward. He would bring everybody together and they would have brainstorming sessions until finally his idea was on the flip chart. Oh. So they would sit there for hours. And that's when my husband finally said, why don't we just hear what your idea is and then we'll be able to go to lunch because this is so ridiculous. So I knew at a very young age, my husband was always very entrepreneurial. His parents didn't have the same luxury. His dad worked in a factory. His mom was a stay-at-home mom, but he saw what his dad had to do. His dad had to be a part of a union, because in the factory you had to be. And he thought, his dad didn't want to be a part of that. And so he always worked straight commission from the moment I met him.
Wow.
He never had a salary paycheck ever.
That's scary.
Yeah.
But he had the guts.
Oh, total. And he's a consummate salesperson and I am too. And we just understand selling.
How would you define that, consummate salesperson?
A consummate salesperson is somebody who gets up in the morning, takes a shower, gets ready, puts on their clothes like they're going to an office and walks into the living room and starts making sales calls.
Yeah.
Not, gets up, has their coffee, walks around, does a little laundry, mows the lawn, comes back in about 9:30, sits down at their laptop, plays around with, I wonder when I'm going to see this person, meets their friends for lunch. This is why many entrepreneurs or freelancers, as we say in this business, never will get out of their own way. You have to be a salesperson first. You can be as creative as you want to be. But if you don't know how to go find the business, sorry. That's why there's a lot of starving artists. I mean, you're a musician, you know this. I mean, there's people that are phenomenal, but they can't go sell themselves.
That's hard in this. Here we are in the event, talking about wedding business. I know you're a consultant for all kinds of industries, but here in the wedding business, this is a lot of, I don't know if I want to say sensitive, but in a sense, artistic people, right?
No, they are sensitive.
It's all coming from the heart. And then to have to put on that business hat.
Right.
How how do you talk to people, let's say in the wedding industry, who they're brilliant, absolutely brilliant, but they're not making enough money. They're not valuing themselves enough. They're not valuing their services enough. How do you put on that business hat and combine the two?
So as I mentioned just in some of our past chats, the coaching and consulting work I do is different than I'm going to show you how to build your business platform.
You don't get
and your
into
pricing.
structure.
I don't get into structure. I do get into what the sales team or your team that takes inquiries. I get into the front line of it, but I don't get into the backside of the business. So what I do is all the people that I'm working with here that, you've heard say, Ed got up and said, I was, his person that said, you can do this.
Right.
I am the one that says, okay, what do you want to do? Well, we just want to have more weddings. When the person says to me, I don't want to do any more weddings, but I want to make more money, there's other consultants here that deal with that.
Yeah.
I can't do that because I'm very busy and I make money because I'm very busy. So we haven't figured out, I would never go try to do consulting, telling people something. I can't say, well, I'm only going to travel 2 weeks out of the month. Not going to happen. We know that I have built our business by truly practicing what I preach. So everyone else on my team is all a part of that. So when I'm working with a photographer, which I have worked with, I've worked with a couple of musicians. I've worked with some DJs, several of the planners. Mine is all about how do you actually take an inquiry? So I worked with a photographer in London not too long ago, and he said, you're nuts. This is never going to happen because it took days for him to get back to people. The email would come in or the phone call would come in. And because he and one other guy were running their business, it would take them 2 to 3 days to see that. And then he wondered why he wasn't getting anywhere. I said, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So I said, first of all, the moment the email comes in today's world on your iPhone or your smartphone, whatever, bottom line is when you're going to the bathroom, you can check your email.
Right.
Okay, I'm sorry. Everybody gets a break.
Let's be real.
Musicians or photographers or musicians, they're not working from 8 until midnight without ever taking a sip of water or ever taking a 10-minute break. We know they do. So you check your email, and on your phone, you simply respond back immediately. Thanks so much for reaching out to XYZ photography company. Thrilled that you thought of us. I'm currently working at a wedding and I will be available to talk on, and it might be Monday or Tuesday because this could be Saturday. It could be Friday and Saturday. I'm available to talk Monday and Tuesday. Is there a good time for you? You've put it back into the client's court. Well, when I told him that, he said that I won't be able to do it. I said, well, why don't you just try it? Why don't you try it for a month and then give me a call? Yeah. He called me in like 2 weeks. Oh my gosh. I've got all these phone appointments because phone appointments are easy. It's, I got back to you right away, and
That's right.
It doesn't matter what's going on.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is going on. Here's people in my office. We'll be able to chat with you. This to me is a no-brainer, and that's what I see in the weddings industry as a big issue.
And it can be short and succinct, right?
Yeah, I didn't send a proposal.
I agree with you. When I write people, even my own team people, I love, even if they just write back and say, got it.
Got it.
Period.
On it.
And
on
I feel like, okay, I can relax. I know they're dealing with it. Even though I know they're totally responsible, I know that. It's an emotional thing for me. I need that.
Everybody, and here's the thing, Andy, is let me tell you something. Even every one of the planners that say you've got to have people that are great working for you, you just know they'll get it done. The best people in the world, best. Because I got a great team. Yeah. Things slip through the cracks. Are you kidding me?
You're right.
We're overwhelmed. We're busy.
Yeah.
So if I send something to you and I don't hear got it, on it, all over it, chances are you missed it.
See, I can say this
and
right now.
that's not micromanaging.
And again, I know I've got responsible people in both my businesses.
100%.
I get this weird emotional thing like, did they get it? Is it being worked on? And
it's not
and
micromanaging.
most of the time they are. Almost all the time they are, but I want to know it.
Right. And then what it does for me is it does help me. So I'm not about, letting things just kind of float out. I'm very clear, and I'm very organized for being on the road every week in my life. I'm extremely organized, but I help my team be organized. So I might email them at 2 a.m. I'm not expecting for them to get up and email me back. Right. And they all know that. No one has to have a stomach ache
so they don't feel that pressure.
The reason I'm emailing them at 2 a.m. is I might be in a different time zone.
Yeah.
I might actually wake up. I'm one of these people as a young child. I kept a pad and paper by my bed because my best thinking and my best problem solving came in the middle of the night. Yeah. So I roll over and think, oh my gosh, I totally forgot that. And I quickly send a text or an email. Does not mean you have to answer me back. Tomorrow morning, you can answer me back.
Yeah.
And it works because when people say, my boss it's so overwhelming. I mean, I can't stand that I get, texts and emails from her at like 2 a.m.
Right.
I'm like,
or they come into work Monday and there's a slew of emails.
Why? If that was an easy time for her to send them, why?
Yeah. What, I want to go also in another direction. You have talked about saying that you're the radical mentor,
yes.
And this is the life I've chosen,
yes.
Therefore, let's see, here's the quote. I am the radical mentor. This is the life I've chosen. Therefore, I must accept it.
Yes. Yes.
Can you say more about that?
All right. Well, that's kind of the Godfather quote. I just took it, but it's good. So the radical mentor was given to me years and years ago, by some people when I was that I was training for, because I'm a take no prisoners kind of girl. I'm not even kidding. I really face the facts, and I look at whoever it is and say, this is not working. Even with clients of mine, it's not like the wedding world. This isn't working, our relationship. You've hired me to come in to help train your people. You've hired me to do this. You have got to listen to what I'm saying. And part of the problem is you. And 90% of most issues in any company is the leader.
And can you give some examples?
Yeah. The leader who gives no feedback, who doesn't follow up, who does not develop their people, who does not walk the talk. It's do as I say, not as I do. The leader that procrastinates, the leader that is the bottleneck to every idea in the world, the leader that sends you off on 27 different tangents and then in a month scraps them all. That causes a dysfunctional organization. So when we say I'm a radical mentor, I have been known to look at CEOs of very big companies right in the eyes and say, in all due respect, sir, this is your problem, not anybody else's.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and part of that quote too was, this is the life I've chosen. Therefore I must accept. I mean, we're talking about taking responsibility. This is my interpretation of it. All right. I'm sure everyone's going to have different ones, but mine is that, I remember when I was at IBM, I really missed music, and in the beginning, I wanted to be the president of IBM, but then soon I realized, no, this corporate stuff and, being in a suit and tie, it's just not me. And I was so angry. I was so frustrated, banging my head against the wall. And I remember a really good friend of mine, my therapist, said
which is
to me,
good.
oh yeah, hey, listen, you got to work on yourself, got to nurture yourself. That's another piece we got to get to.
Put your mask on first.
But I remember him saying to me, look, you keep coming in complaining. You chose it. You chose it.
Right.
You can leave. Okay.
Right.
Stop. He even said to me, right, I'm paying him. He said, stop coming in and complaining about this. If you don't like it that much, get the out of there.
Exactly.
And that changed everything for me.
Yes.
I then went back to work thinking, okay, it's not what I really want to do, but I am choosing to be here. Why am I choosing to be here? Because I'm getting for now, I'm getting regular paycheck. I'm learning this. I'm learning how to sell. I can apply it. It just took so much pressure off. Is that what you meant too?
So yes. It is what I mean, but there's another bit of it. It's that I do live on the road, and you've met Lefty, my husband. We've been married 38 years. He travels probably 60% of the time with me. Back when our daughter was younger, he didn't travel as much. I mentioned that I pulled my daughter out of school, a week a month. It's the life we chose. When it was time for, me to do the snacks for school, I did FedEx them from, the Ritz-Carlton, gorgeous hotel somewhere in the country where I was working, and the snacks would show up at school because that's the life we chose.
Yeah.
And so I had to walk my daughter down a very, very gentle path of, honey, you love this life. You love the travel. You love to go to Disney. You love all of this. So we can't cry when I leave to get on the plane. And then that I'm come home on the weekend, or, dad's going to take you and meet me somewhere and we're going to go skiing together. You can't have it all. So if I don't do this, then I'll go to work back at a hotel as a director of sales and marketing, which I was really good at. And I can do that. That's no problem. And it won't be a Monday through Friday job because it's a hotel. So it's never Monday through Friday. I won't be home every night at 5:00 to have dinner all May because hotels, I have to meet clients. So no matter how you look at it, I just will be tethered to a desk, which I won't enjoy that much. So the life we chose, therefore we have to accept it. When I would have meltdowns or I would be tired, because I do get tired. I can't ever act like I'm tired, but I do get tired. I had to keep saying, I chose this.
Yeah.
So knock it off. So if I would get in that moment for a minute, I don't want to do this anymore, I can quit. This is no problem. Both my husband and I have no doubt that we could stop this right now and get jobs and go to work somewhere else and make a decent salary and get all of our benefits and perks. We don't want that. He never wanted to be in a corporation. I was in it for a good long time while I learned the business, the hospitality industry. But I was happiest when I was working at like the Gaslight clubs and I was managing girls singing burlesque. I mean, I was happiest in that moment. I was never happy at meetings where these corporate cowards would sit around and make me crazy.
Yeah.
I was never happiest then.
I want to be sure you know the wonderful news of our latest show, Stop and Smell the Roses, with acclaimed lifestyle and event design expert Preston Bailey. Not only will he share the secrets, tools, and technologies behind his extraordinary ability to create a theatrical environment out of any space, you will also discover more about the man behind the magic. Preston will reveal how his focus on personal growth has been the root of his professional success, and you'll have the opportunity for him to answer your questions along the way. Plus, Preston will be inviting onto the show many of the star celebrities he has worked with in the past, so you don't want to miss a single episode. We also have another great show on the Wedding Biz Network, The Business of Being Creative, with host Sean Lowe. Since debuting, his show has really taken off, and he's continuing to bring you the creative business advice he's shared with accomplished industry notables. Be sure to take advantage of Sean's talkback opportunity by recording questions and comments from right there in each episode's show notes. So, if you are a creative who is turning your craft into a business or want to take it to another level, head to theweddingbiznetwork.com and take a listen to Stop and Smell the Roses with Preston Bailey and The Business of Being Creative with Sean Lowe. That's theweddingbiznetwork.com. Did you say burlesque girls you were managing?
Yes. So I worked for the Gaslight clubs, which if you look this up, you'll see that there's only one Gaslight club still around.
I know there's a Gaslight district in Portland or something, but it's not that.
So Gaslight Club there's one at the O'Hare Hilton.
Okay.
And the bartender that I worked with in Chicago bought the rights, and he's the only one that has it. So I went to work for a gentleman named Bob Fredericks, Robert M. Fredericks, who owned the Chateau Louise outside of Chicago, Illinois, in Dundee. And he owned 6 Gaslight clubs. Gaslight was started by a guy by the name of Burton Brown, a British guy. It all is burlesque. So no stripping. The girls all wore the Roaring 20s. It was a key club. It was all about prohibition. It was all about, we had gold keys that we wore. And I managed his largest clubs as well as New York.
Wow.
And I took Gaslight on tour. So it was they all sang. Every girl had to sing. And we had some famous, talking about trumpets, some famous, musicians that worked especially at the Gold Coast in New York and the Gold Coast in Chicago. And they had, we served big steaks. I mean, it was funny because he taught me so much. He was also, worked with David Merrick, created a lot of plays in New York, Chorus Line, a bunch of different things. But he taught me at a very young age how to sell. He was a partner in Second City. Oh. So I was, working with Second City, and that's when John Belushi was still alive.
Really?
And Jim Belushi. Yes, it was a very fun time for me. I loved every minute of it. But I will never forget how he would come in at like night, and it'd be like 5 or 6 o'clock, and I'm in the box office for Second City, and I'm trying to sell group tickets and things like that. And he would grab the phone for me and say, Dear, you're not doing it right. And the client is on the phone. Oh. He'd say, hi, this is Robert M. Fredericks. I own this. And I just want to she's learning. And but I learned. But the one thing was that he really taught me hard work. And he taught me that it's not 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And that's where I learned the business. And running the Gaslight clubs was like huge, and I loved it, and it was phenomenal.
This makes me think, hearing your stories, you are so courageous. You've got a lot of guts. And I remember today, at Engage, you were talking about the guts it takes to be courageous, and that, when life really gets tough, it takes guts to keep going and hard to face tough times. And you talked about, you have to turn fear into a motivator. Let me back up for a little bit in this, because there's a lot there.
Right.
It's almost like an elephant in the room. I've been talking with a lot of people about this, like at these conferences. I mean, again, huge amount of talent. Everyone's really looking good. And there's also a lot of fear going on. But like Ed Libby addressed, there's also there's a certain amount of anxiety. There's some people, okay, maybe they got so much business they can barely handle it. There's plenty of people who are not getting enough.
Right.
There's a lot going on behind the scenes. So in terms of when life gets tough,
right,
and you're facing all of these challenges and you're facing fear, to turn it into a motivator. I would love to hear your take on this, to go deeper with that.
Okay. So and I've just faced some tough times recently. I will say that every person in the world faces tough times. I think every person in the world has some sort of anxiety. It's just that some needs to be medicated and some doesn't. Okay. I mean, it doesn't. Anxiety can be fear of flying.
Yeah.
Anxiety for me was getting up on stage, years and years ago. I could easily do a room of 20, 25, but I had to speak at Madison Square Garden in front of 5,000 people. And I thought I was just going to I'd rather fall off the stage.
Yeah.
Right. I think what happens is the way you turn fear into a motivator is you really do look in the mirror, and you do have someone very close to you, or you can have a therapist or counselor, but like my husband. So it can be your husband, it can be your wife, it can be a girlfriend, boyfriend, daughter, son, best friend, therapist, someone in your life. And my dad, and my mom too, but my dad for business. My dad says it like it is with me. And so does Lefty. Why is this making you crazy? Just tell me why. And for those two, I can tell them the truth. And sometimes it's very, very silly. Oh, I don't look good in that dress. I felt really bad. I said a word wrong. We've always laughed that I should have been a comedian because I miss words and mix up words all the time. I think there was the guy Norm Crosby or something that he was a comedian and he always said words wrong. I never even knew who he was, but people say you're like that. Cause if a big word, I can't say it. I just say it my own way. And my dad would say, you can't make that word up. And so I have to believe in my heart that most people aren't comfortable enough with somebody to tell them the real truth about why am I nervous about this? Why do I not want to do this? I have a gal that has worked for me for a pretty long time now and phenomenal. Well, when I hired her, when you come to work for us, you have to fly all the time. And she was afraid of flying. She got sick, but she never said that because she really wanted the job.
Yeah.
So what happened is we never really sat together because I get upgraded a lot. I was in first class. She was in coach. She was just starting. And so at one point we flew together and we were seated next to each other. And I saw her reach for the sick bag and kind of move it up in front. I go, oh, do you feel sick? She goes, well, and it'd been a couple of years now. She's been working for me, doing a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
She said, I never told you this, but I get huge anxiety on planes. I said, oh my gosh, you're kidding me. Now I didn't say, well, that's going to be a problem. I said, what do you do? And she goes, well, no, I drink, ginger tea. I suck on ginger. It's little things. It wasn't anxiety I'm going to lose my mind. It's more her tummy and, and the moment she told me, I don't think she even has had any issues since.
Wow.
It was she probably had,
pressure out.
Right. How people on a plane and turbulence is really bad and something happens and oh my gosh, and they're holding your hand. Well, the minute it's she's told me, I said, well, oh my gosh, I can totally get it. Cause I'm one of these people when there's turbulence on a plane, I'm it's lulling me to sleep. Oh, right. I have no anxiety with that.
That's
I have anxiety of other things, you know. Not that.
Yeah.
So, but I said to her, oh my gosh, that's okay. And how great. And what are those little ginger things you're sucking on? Cause I want one too. So I think you've got to have people in your life. And this is why in corporations and even with many of these small entrepreneurs, the egos get big. I'm sorry. And, the people that work for some of the big people that plan events and weddings can be highly intimidated for some of these young people.
Yeah.
And so the anxiety and the fear is, I hope I did it right. I don't know if I did it right. I didn't hear back from them. He didn't say this or she didn't let me know. That if they can't talk and say, why didn't you text me back to the boss?
Yes.
Couldn't you tell me if it was good or not?
Yeah. Why not?
It's that sort of thing that people take fear and they don't turn it to motivation. It just continues to eat away.
As a manager, boss, whatever you want to call me, CEO, I love when one of the people working for me and I to me, work alongside me is really what it feels like. I love when they bring up stuff to me like that and express it and say it. Because I know enough that if you're holding it in, so many different things can happen, right? You can get kind of frozen. You start making mistakes. You start getting resentment. I don't want anyone to start feeling resentment. Let it out. Tell me. Let's talk about it.
Yes. There's nothing too bad that you can't talk about it.
Yeah.
Nothing. That's what I said when I was on stage today. All I've ever asked for everybody that works for me is if you're feeling that you don't want to be with us anymore, just start talking to me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to fire you because you're telling me you're not really enjoying it. What I'm going to do is maybe help you through it. If you're so great, I want to keep you. If there's another reason, or I'm going to help you exit in a really good way so that you can get a job while you have a job. This is what just burns me up. Why can't people be normal? They look at you in the face and say, absolutely, I'll do that. Well, clearly they don't. I mean, they don't all, because I've had people definitely do it with me and talk to me. Some have quit and come back 3 and 4 times because I don't mind that when you're open and honest. But when you leave things to the last minute, when you don't tell me, then there is fear. And the fear is that you haven't been honest with me for a long time in the first place.
Well, and you took that further. You said, I remember you said you're the only one in charge of your destiny. And you have to think, how do I master my own motivation?
Right.
Can you say a little more about that too?
So I never was the kid that wanted to be alone. Okay. My sister could play with stuff all by herself. I always had to have friends over. So I needed outside motivation, and which is now we laugh because now I motivate myself. I get on a plane. I fly. I'm with people sometimes, but sometimes I'm all by myself. I literally get up and I do look in the mirror and I do say, it doesn't really matter what you did yesterday. It doesn't matter how many people love you. It doesn't matter how many followers you have on Instagram and Facebook. It doesn't even matter, because today it could all go away. And I sincerely believe that. That's a
scary thing to believe.
I do it. I believe it, because this is how it could all go away. I'm not in charge, and that's what you heard me say at the end of I'm not in charge of my future. I am in charge of my habits, and my habits, I believe, define my future. And I believe my habit of not getting complacent. People that don't know me I don't think anybody thinks I have a big ego. I don't think my team thinks I have a big ego. I'm just like, I'm humble every day. I get nervous like the rest of my team. I get stomach aches like the rest of my team. I muddle through some of the issues we're going through. But I do wake up and look in the mirror and go, okay, here we go. And when I'm working outside of my comfort zone, which by the way is 40% of the time, 60% of my world is travel, weddings, events, hotels, cruise lines. I get that business. Food and beverage, restaurants. I got that. That is my world. 40% law firms, financial, automotive, real estate, medical.
Which you may not necessarily understand.
No, I don't understand some of it. What I understand is what I'm there for, which is how to be a better leader, how to go build your book of business, and how to deliver excellent client service. So I only talk on those 3 things. But there are times when a lawyer or a head of marketing for a law firm will push right up and go, I totally disagree with you. And because you've never worked in a law firm, I don't know if I can agree with that. And I have to have the guts and the grit to look them in the eyes and say, really? Because I'm coming to you from the outside in. The reason we're here is you didn't figure it out yourself. So let's just back up, pal. And that, I have to muster that.
Yes, I was going to ask.
In a big way. Because I could really tick the client off.
Right.
And we could end up losing the account. But I have to be able to push forward. And part of pushing forward is where I'm in charge of this here. I'm in charge of my destiny. Like if I blow it for our whole team.
Yeah.
But I blew it. If I blow it, right? But I think that's the biggest issue, is that people don't get up in the morning thinking that they might have to push a little harder, run a little scared, fight a little more.
You know, you're talking a little while ago about not becoming complacent. And this is an interesting topic too. It's related because even here at the conference, I've talked to some really big hitters, and I've been through this myself too, where what we talk about is, business is really coming in. It's looking really good. I've had some people say they don't even have to promote, word of mouth. They got so much going on, and they start to kind of back off a little bit from networking and checking in too much with the clients. And it's not, it's not like they're being negative or doing something wrong. It's just that, okay, I'm just going to relax a little bit.
Scares me.
And the story is that as time goes by, one guy was telling me it was like 10 years. It was like that long. I've been through my own thing where it's maybe a year, 9 months, year and a half, where all of a sudden you started to see that, little by little, there's something that's been eroding, you know, and ooh, it's an awful feeling.
And part of it's your passion. So I always say, bottom line is, you don't have to cash out, then take a longer vacation. But I'm going to tell you right now, you cannot step back away from your business if you're an entrepreneur. See, when you work for a corporation, you can take a sabbatical. I'm going to go work on my MBA. I'm going to take a 6-month sabbatical. I've worked for you for 20 years. They don't care because there's a million of you lined up. Mm-hmm. Then they just give you the 6 months off, don't have to pay you, excited as they can be because like, wow, you're off the payroll for 6 months and you just go take your sabbatical. Okay. Nothing scares me more. I'm like, okay, people say, well, you need to step away to get your head clear. If I do that, I will be going into a different business then. I can't step away from my business to get my head clear because when I come back, I won't even know what I don't know. If I decide I want to step away because I'm going to start to transition and do something new, fair enough. Let whoever I'm going to put in charge run it, know that I'm not stepping back in because I truly believe I can cause havoc. Like I know that my team looks to me for guidance, looks to my husband for guidance. What do you think about this? We are not, they run like crazy doing a great job. Yeah. The trainers that I have on my team, some very seasoned, senior ones that could take over tomorrow. They show up when I'm not there and nobody misses a beat. There's some clients that don't even know my name. Yeah. And it's okay. It's okay because that's why our company is now called Cindy Novotny and Associates, right? No way.
There's something you said too during your talk that's kind of related to this. You said too many of us stop looking for business because we're too busy.
Yes, because we're busy. Because and the group I'm talking to, if you are a 1-man or 2-man or 3-man, because you think about it, some of the biggest high-end planners or photographers, musicians, linens, rental, they have maybe 3 people, 4 people, 5 people on payroll. And then they outsource everything and they bring in specialists, right? Yeah. So, and some only have 1 or 2. Someone answering the phone, helping with their business plan. They might bring in finance and that sort of thing. The reason they're so busy is there's a couple things. One is they don't want to do as much work. And they can charge enough that they feel that's okay. I don't feel that's okay. I feel like you got to stack it up and it's okay. So if you're married or have a partner that makes a lot of money in another industry, then I'll only work like half the time. But it's okay. I don't have that luxury. We're in it together. So we have to, as I say on the farm, make hay while the sun shines. So that means you got to work it all and work it strong until you can't do it anymore. And you got to bank your cash. And I believe cash is the king. And I swear that too many people are so not prepared for their future. They're in their 40s and 50s and they literally are doing one day at a time and they live in very expensive areas. Some of them have office space that is outrageous, right? And what's going to happen when I'm 60 and then 70 and then what? Because a service is not like I'm going to sell my manufacturing of this microphone and someone's going to buy it. Very difficult to sell a service.
I'm thinking what some people might say to that is, well, I don't have enough to bank. I'm not making enough profit or something like that. But I think there's something about the perspective going into it that it's the shift.
Yeah, because you're not making enough bank because you're not doing enough work. So the deal is hire somebody to help you. Okay. And again, this is why I never consult on this side of the business. Yeah. But this is my own this is how we run our business. We pay our employees. We're privately held. So we have contractors that are outside of California, but our 10 people in California that are in our office they're all salaried. They're all on, unbelievable, like 401ks, retirement funds that are their money, not that's their stuff. They can have it. They get the same amount, 25% of their salary. Okay. Think about it.
Yeah.
Very few people get that from us.
Yeah, really.
Because in the state of California with a privately held company, we have to match what we do for ourselves. Now, we put ours away. I don't know what they do with theirs. They get
Right.
it. And they have a financial advisor at their disposal that they get to use. They can pull it out. They just then have to pay taxes and it. But we know we pay ourselves first, and we always have. So we save our money. So if we're making $100, we always save 10% of that.
And regardless of, what about when things are tight?
No. We still pay ourselves.
That's the first rule.
That means you don't go out to dinner and you don't eat steak and you don't have.
Right.
Bottom line is, this is a problem for a lot of the younger generations coming up, because they're not being taught to really prepare a little for the future.
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer. That's why I'm in charge of my destiny. That's why we're in charge of our destiny.
I would say it's also, you talked about habit earlier. It's also a habit. Like, I remember for me, a while ago, when things were really, really tough, I remember still thinking, okay, you know what? Oh, I know what it was. I was putting away money for a 529 for my daughter's college education. And I was putting in a good chunk of money, and then things were getting tight, whatever, recession. And I remember thinking, oh, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this for now. What about my daughter? But I can't do it. And then I decided, wait a minute, even if it's just 50 a month.
Right.
And then I get to 100 a month. And I had that attitude where it's just still keeping the habit.
Exactly. And the thing is, like you said, you'd been when times were good, you were putting a little more in. Mm-hmm. So as long as you kept the habit going. And what's so funny to me is some of these same people, their habit to go to spin class or yoga, it's like ridiculous. They're
right.
like on
very
steroids.
Disciplined about that.
They're like, I got to get out and go to spin class. Oh my, I wouldn't miss my soul cycle. I mean, they're just like, whoa. But then when it comes to business and it comes to being a consummate salesperson and a business professional, they're like, well, I mean, I did that. And I look at them and go,
that is a really good point.
Yeah, like, why don't you dedicate the same energy to running a marathon?
So they have the ability to be disciplined and organized. Right. It's just applying it.
Yeah, because it's not important to them.
It's such a perspective thing, isn't it? It's all in your mind.
Right. It's all in your mind. And to me, I don't really like exercise, but I will walk. I do walk. I try to stay healthy. I try to stay in shape, but I should work out a little bit more. But you know what? I make sure I'm walking and I'm getting my steps in and all of that. But I know that I've always said, money can't buy you happiness, but happiness can't buy you a house.
Right.
At the end of the day, I'm sorry.
No, there has to be.
You can't. It's
you can't have this Buddhist attitude about it.
And and the people that I'm going to give everything, I'm going to give too, but I got to have money to give. I want to be charitable. Okay, great. But I got to, charity starts at home, by the way.
Yeah.
So if we don't take care of our own, all right, I wouldn't have to be taking care of everybody else's. So if everybody else would just focus on their book of business and how to create more bounty and take care of it. It's not about being, greedy and all of that. It's about, if I build a good business, I can take care of everyone that works for me. How many times do you hear this company's just shut down and everybody lost their jobs? Yeah. This division shut down and everybody's lost their job. Right? But the owner is living in a big house and could care less. Well, because they're not building their business. Right?
Just a couple more questions I want to ask you as we start to wrap up. What about feeling overwhelmed? Because that's another issue I'm hearing in the room too. Just feeling overwhelmed.
So I don't feel overwhelmed. I sometimes get sad. I've had, like I said, a tough week. I sometimes will cry my eyes out. I don't get overwhelmed because I have given everyone in my team their specific jobs of what they do. So I have people right now holding down the office that are a little overwhelmed because we're a little short-staffed because of a lot of different things that have gone on and we're, going to hire and all that. They're overwhelmed because of workload. Okay. So to me, workload can overwhelm you if you don't have enough support.
Right.
I have to do this every day. So I will be here. I gave a speech today. I will be here tomorrow. Tonight I'll host one of my tables. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. Tomorrow I will attend and network. I will then fly Thursday to go do a speech Thursday night in Portland. I will then do a coaching on Friday. Yeah. That's my job. That's my compartment. I will fly home Friday night. And at midnight on Saturday, I will fly to Cambodia to
go
to
my
work,
God. Cindy,
right?
I'm exhausted listening to this.
But that's what I do, and I'm not overwhelmed because I'm organized. I know what I have. Some people, I would be overwhelmed if I was getting up every day in Orange County and driving to L.A. I would be overwhelmed.
Really?
Yes. I would just not. I would rather get on a plane, have a 14-hour flight, watch movies, which is the only time I actually see movies, read, do some things, sleep, get there, do my job, then fly home.
Yeah.
Overwhelmed is when it's workload. So my workload is okay. I put everything in a compartment. Now, I write my own speeches. I'm working on a second book. But you see, I can do that on a plane. I can do that at 9:00 at night. I can do that at 2 p.m. I respond to every one of our inquiries that come to our website.
What? You're the one doing that?
Yes.
Wow.
And the reason is my team is way more overwhelmed to do that because for me,
right, because you're on a plane, you can sit there and just catch up.
On my phone.
Yeah.
As soon as we broke for the break, before I even went on, I just look at my emails and there was an actual inquiry that came in. And literally, I don't go longer than, I literally don't go longer than maybe an hour because it's never more than an hour that I see it. And I respond this quickly, thanks so much for reaching out.
Yeah.
Her name was Lucy. Thanks so much, Lucy. I've copied Shelly and Autumn from our team. Is there a good time? Because she's in New York. I said, is there a good time for tomorrow for you two to connect? I got an email immediately back. She said, thanks for your prompt response. And tomorrow I'm available this set of windows. And now because I CC'd my team,
it's in motion.
One of them picked it up and now I've moved on.
Yeah.
I'm not overwhelmed.
Well, and if you didn't, by the way, they might call someone else.
Right. And if I just make someone at my team who is dealing with dealing in the office, dealing with all the trainers, dealing with everything that's going on, it would take them sometimes they're on conference calls, they're on sales calls. It might take them longer to respond.
Yeah.
So part of it is people are, when they say they're overwhelmed, it's because they're not in charge. They're not in charge of their destiny. They seriously are they're like on a hamster wheel, and they're just muddling and they don't plan. I look at my calendar every single night before I go to bed. I look at all my emails. Everything is put in a place that my mind trusts. I'm not overwhelmed because I'm not guilty about my family. I'm not like, because I've done this for the whole time my daughter was little to where she is right now.
You know what you're making me think of is when I personally feel overwhelmed, it's so weird. I forget for a moment this stuff. And then I remember and I'll just sit down and it doesn't even take that long to simply organize myself, organize my thoughts. I have to write things down in a certain way and structure them and use my calendar and all of that. And then I feel so much better so quickly.
Yep. No, it makes... I think in the big picture, I'm not about lists. I'm about putting things in a place my mind trusts. So I use my Outlook as simple as it is. And I don't put down tasks. I literally put down next Tuesday, you've got to finish 2 more chapters of the book. Then it pops up and then I will work
I do this
on that,
too. Yeah.
Right? And I don't make a list. Otherwise it would say finish book.
Yeah. Well, I don't even look at my list. I had to make lists to look at my list.
Yeah. There's no way. I don't make lists. People laugh at me and my family. I don't make grocery lists. My mom laughs because I walk around the grocery store with like recipe books and I shop by, she looks at me like, I go, Mom, you know how much time it takes to write all that down? I'll just take the recipe book and then I go find it.
Yeah.
She says, I don't know anybody that does that. So, but that's because I don't want to be overwhelmed.
Well, Cindy, I could go on and on and on with you. And you know what I do? I want to have you back again. And
well,
because we could attack these different topics. Yes. I love it. I'm having such a blast with you. You have given such valuable information. So thank you so much. So definitely going to have you back.
Well, thank you. I'd love to be back.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you for listening to this re-release of an earlier episode on the wedding biz. If you enjoyed it, please share it with 3 friends or colleagues who you think would also benefit from hearing it. And follow us on Instagram and Facebook at The Wedding Biz. We'll catch you next time on The Wedding Biz.